Hi, my name is Fran Moore with the Prosperity Agenda, and welcome to Coaching Up Close, our mini webinar series designed to work some quick tips into your busy schedule to help you improve your coaching skills. But first, let me introduce TPA. We are working to end persistent poverty by changing the way that we think about, build programs for, and coach families under financial stress. Coaching is, of course, a big part of our DNA, and we work with organizations all over the country on their coaching programs. Before we jump in, if you're joining us live, we'll have a question and answer session at the end of this webinar, so save your questions. And as a note, please feel free to view our videos from this Coaching Up Close and past Coaching Up Close videos. Share these with your colleagues and watch them over on our YouTube page. You can find us on YouTube at the Prosperity Agenda at the Prosperity Agenda on YouTube. Also, please visit our website, www.theprosperityagenda.org, to register for these upcoming webinars and so many other things that we have coming up. Now let's get started with our session for today, building staff buy-in in the coaching approach. We are honored that today we have the opportunity to hear from a leader in an organization that we've worked closely with over the last several years. Some of you may be familiar with Kevin Lewis. Kevin Lewis is a big proponent of coaching, and I got to catch up with him earlier this week. He wasn't able to join us live, and he sends his apologies for that, but I was able to catch up with Kevin earlier this week, and I would love to share that conversation with you all now. I hope that you enjoy. All right. Okay. Hi, Kevin.
Hey, how you doing?
It's good to see you again. Thank you for joining us to talk about family-centered coaching buy-in among staff. I would like to take a moment and introduce you to our audience. I'm very familiar with you. Kevin and I have known each other for probably close to 7 or 8 years at this point, but I would like to take the opportunity to introduce to some and remind others about Kevin Lewis. Kevin Lewis is the Deputy Executive Director of Operation Pathways and the Assistant Vice President for Resident Services for the NHP Foundation. Kevin has over 20 years of experience in the nonprofit sector, focusing on community and family engagement. Operation Pathways is a multi-state organization working to ensure affordable housing through innovative programs that engage, empower, and support residents to achieve the future that they desire. The thing that we are here to talk about today, though, is the fact that in 2018, Kevin led his organization's shift toward the FCC model. And over the past 3 years, he has provided support to the organization's coaching program. So again, thank you, Kevin, for joining us to talk about gaining staff buy-in in the FCC coaching approach. I'd like to give you a second to say hi to everyone, and we'll move right into the conversation.
So thank you guys for having me. I want to first apologize that I'm not with you guys live, but look forward to the conversation with Fran, and we'll be happy to answer any questions folks will have afterwards.
All right, sounds good. So many of you know that we'll be doing a series over the next several months where we'll be talking to practitioners and leaders within organizations who have implemented the family-centered coaching model. And we get to kick off this series with none other than Kevin Lewis of Operation Pathways. If you have not had an opportunity, the case study that we're basing this conversation off of is available now on our website. I'll also provide the link in the bio, in the description box below. The first question that we wanted to talk about when we talk about gaining staff buy-in into, this type of thing is, Kevin, in the case study, you described your work or the work that you all have been doing with family-centered coaching as transformational for not only your organization, but also for the families that you serve across the country. Can you explain the benefits of doing transformational work with families? I know that it can be very easy to get stuck in the, as you say, checking off the boxes, getting that part done and feeling accomplished. So how did you explain the benefits of doing this type of transformative work to your staff?
Well, for me personally, and I'll talk about from the organization perspective, but from a personal perspective, I've been in human services for a very long time. And you often see, unfortunately, a lot of work that is done is it's kind of like, let's maintain a person at a certain level. Like, let's make sure people are housed and make sure they're fed and make sure they have, the basic necessities. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not knocking that at all. That's important. People need to be able to live life well. But I think there's also another piece to this work. And the bigger piece is, what do people want to do with their lives? Where do they want to go? What do they want to accomplish? And sometimes we can focus so much on the need in our mind, whatever we think that is, and supplying that need till we forget that this person has dreams, they have goals, they have things they've always wanted to do, and we're just thinking about sustaining them and not thinking about what they want to do with their lives. So when I think of transformative work, I think of that work. I want to give you some food, but I also want to hear, what's your dream? What do you want to do? What do you always want to do? What do you want to accomplish? How do you want to get there? And I think those questions are imperative for us to ask to the people we serve, particularly when you're working with disenfranchised or marginalized groups who oftentimes doors have been closed in systems. Nobody has asked them what they want, right? And so I think it's important that we reframe human services to an approach that we start looking for opportunities to ask people what they want to help them transform their situations. Again, not downplaying the importance of basic needs and basic services, but I think we also, within that framework, there's an opportunity for us to go beyond making sure you're clothed, housed, and fed, to saying, hey, what are your dreams? What do you want? Where do you want to be in 10 years? Where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 6 months? And helping people to walk that path. And I think that's what I mean when I talk about transformative.
And so how did you help your staff really understand why that shift was so beneficial? Maybe even for themselves, like why would it matter? How did you make it matter to your staff that they were now being able to tell, oh, I'm doing transactional work versus now I'm doing transformational work?
It's I will say this: if you've been doing this work for a while, it can be difficult to initially make that switch, right? Because the industry has taught us to just be, it's transactional, it's sustainable. We're trying to just sustain people where they are. But when you're able to dig deep and really focus on, well, why do we even do this work? Why does this sector exist, right? What's the purpose of it? And for me, the answer to those questions are that it exists to help people to achieve what they want to achieve, the goals they want to achieve, the places they want to do, things they want to do. And if I can help the staff to identify the why, in our case, for the resident, and others for the participant or the client, but then also, what's your why in this work, right? Like re-examining, why are you doing this work, right? I've had conversations with people who say, oh, I'm here to save people. And I tell people, I'm not here to save, I'm not trying to save anybody's work. I'm trying to help people achieve what they want to achieve in their lives. Yes. And if that helps them to do something that is valuable to them and they want to thank me for that, that's fine. But I'm not here to save you as far as you're trying to figure out what your life is. We're here to assist people, partner with them to reach the goals they want to reach. And so when you can look at it from that perspective, you start to see the work has value outside of the outcomes and the numbers and the stuff. Like, we're an industry. Any business has to look at their bottom line. So I'm not saying, I always qualify this, I'm not saying that you have to not have outcomes. Have to, like, funders want outcomes, so we have to give them outcomes, right? But what we also need to do is couch outcomes with the idea that this work is important, not for the outcome's sake, but for the person's sake. Your job should be important to you for a personal, like, what's your why in this work, right? And examining that and reflecting on it. And as you do that as a staff person, you do as a staff team, you begin to see that the light bulb goes off, and people are able to then say, oh, this is what you're talking about when you do this. And the beautiful thing is, Fran, is that oftentimes they'll use the coaching mindset, not even realizing it. Like, they went to the training, they're trying something new, and there's a resident will come, or a participant comes with a story, and thanking them, and they'll get a call. I used the approach, and this happened. Like, I didn't even realize this happened. And that's usually the moment for most where they start to see the value in it when you have that intersection of you're using this new approach, and your participant all of a sudden something that they wouldn't have seen before they see now, and the staff person is saying, "Oh, I get it, I see it." And
You know, that's such an interesting segue because in your case study, you talked about the need to celebrate, you know, monthly, annually, weekly, daily, if you have to, efforts that staff members are making in order to actually implement the approach. And so I'm wondering how you may have used coaching skills like asking powerful questions or holding the focus or reflective listening, you know, some of those coaching approaches that you learn about in FCC training to support your staff who are having a bit of a problem implementing. Because, you know, we can go to training and it feels good and it sounds good and everything's all good. And then they're like, I think that approach is amazing. But then you ask, hey, have you tried? And they're like, not yet. I haven't quite found my way into it. I'm still thinking about what my entry point is going to be. Whereas we do have those staff members who just dive right in. Day one, they're like, hey, I'm going to try it. If it goes great, wonderful. If it goes bad, wonderful. At least I learned something. So could you talk about how you may have used some of those coaching skills to support the ones, the coaches who may want to just dip their toe in or they feel a little nervous about actually getting started?
Yeah. So another excellent question. We're dealing with human beings, right? And so dealing with human beings, as you said, are the early adapters. You know, something that some people, the first every technology thing come out there trying it. Everything.
That's right.
Some of us, we got to watch and see, right? And whether it's technology or it's work or whatever it is, you know, people are in different stages. I'll be honest. My approach has always been, I'm more of a watch and see person. I'm not the first person to go into a line and try something. Right, I want to see what happens to the people who try it first. Right, so that's my approach. So just like that approach, personally, we have that approach to our work or our interactions. Normally, that happens in work. So some staff, as you explained, they're going to be gung ho. They're going to jump in. They're going to try. They're going to tell you what's working, what's not working. Others are going to be more skeptical. And as you alluded to, you start to use the coaching approach with them. You start to allow them to, again, I go back to the thing I said earlier, start to reflect on the value of the thing, of the purpose of the approach. And so when we look at the process of staff who are stuck, I don't believe you're punitive with staff when they're trying to implement this approach. I believe you continue to ask the questions like, hey, Fran, let's talk about why you might be having trouble implementing this new approach, right? And let Fran reflect back to you what that might be. You know, hey, Fran, I noticed, you know, you haven't done any, you know, you haven't used the mindset on your calls that you know, some people listen to calls folks make. You know, if you listen to their calls, you're not using that approach when you interact with people. Let's, you know, what could I do to help you to do that more effectively? And you use those same skills. Remember, just like we work with our participants, this isn't punitive, right? Yeah. It's us learning together. Right, you as a supervisor or a leader, the staff person as they're implementing this new approach, you may also find out people aren't using the approaches because you aren't using the approaches.
Wow.
So we want people to coach, but we're not coaching them. We're not using the coaching mindset with partners. We're not using the coaching mindset with other vendors. It's, to me, it has to become a part of your organizational culture. And as the leadership, you need to be the people leading that process. And if your company's leadership isn't leading the process, as a staff person, you should be modeling coaching so that they can see the benefit of it. I think one of the things I said, I've spoken about often, is that Operation Pathways is the division of the NHP Foundation. So we're affiliate of the NHP Foundation. And we started this coaching approach. And NHP Foundation wasn't doing that approach, but they started to see the value in it as we did it. And it became a part of their language started to change. Their interaction started to change. So even if you're not the leader, if you start walking in what you desire, you know, the intended behavior or outcome, I believe it will start to have a trickle effect. You know, that's one of the coaching tenets, right? Some sort of coaching, trickle effect. So it's the idea that once you start doing something, you will see the residual effect. Don't get frustrated. You know, another assumption of coaching, change happens at different times for different people.
That's
right?
it.
So you want to be mindful that everybody's not going to move at the same pace. You just need to continue to exhibit the approach, use the mindset, and be encouraging as people are doing things and as they practice something. So someone who's never used the coaching approach before and you hear them have a conversation, or you see something they wrote and it has a different twist to it. You see the coaching mindset in it, celebrate that. Hey, Fran, that was great. I'm so proud of you. I see that you're trying at this. Like, make sure that you're encouraging folks as they try to make this transition. Because if you've been, I tell people, someone who's been in this field for 10, 15, 20 years, there's an approach that's about fixing, there's an approach that's about maintaining, there's that approach, and that's hard to change, particularly if you've been successful with that other approach. Right? So if you have somebody they've been promoted, they've been, got accolades, and you're saying, now I have to change what I'm doing, which has been effective for me, by the way, for the past 10, 15, or 20 years, to do this new thing, that's hard. That would be hard for any of us. If you're a great salesperson and somebody come in, hey, here's the new sales approach, and you're thinking, I don't need that, right? It's the same thing in this industry, and so we need to be mindful and patient as people are embracing this. Your newer staff who come in, people who new to the field or coming from college, they're just going to jump in, right? Because this is what they know. But when you're dealing with trying to transform a culture, it's a little bit more challenging. And so I think you have to be a little bit more patient. Use your coaching tools to help the buy-in from your staff.
And again, going back to one of those other points you made, pointing out to them where they're already doing some of these things that they didn't have a name for previously. I noticed that you asked the question this way. That was a powerful question. Wow, you did a great job acknowledging that and acknowledging the expertise that they already hold. I think sometimes folks hold on to the old way because I feel confident that I know how to do it that way. And so it's really about providing that affirmation, those affirmations that you're doing a good job and we see your effort as a person is moving the transition. This has been great. I have one more question for you about, gaining staff buy-in as you're making this full organizational shift, like you said. What are two things that were surprising to you as you began to lead other coaches or leading coaches? What did you learn? What were two things that were surprising about that?
I guess the biggest thing that surprised me as we were embracing this and trying to lead coaches is that as a leader or a person leading a charge, you have to be focused all the time on what you're trying to implement, like what you're trying to do. And I was a firm believer in that. I had to exhibit coaching, I had to be coaching, I had to represent coaching, like in every aspect of what we did. And it forced me to operate differently, right? I had to change. And there were ways, maybe the way I sent the email out changed, right? It may have been the way my one-on-ones with staff changed. It may have been the way that, we come to a resolution or a solution about a problem changed, right? Because oftentimes in leadership positions, people come to you for answers, right? Similarly to how our participants sometimes come to us for answers. Right. And with the coaching mindset, I had to pull back and say, oh, so what do you think about this? How do you feel about this? What would work for you in this situation? Whereas before coaching, and I consider myself a pretty decent coach, but I realized after going through the approach, there were areas I need to improve on. And one of those was I'm a fixer. Like if you come with a problem, I want to talk about it and fix it. And oftentimes I believe I have the best suggestions, right? So I got some good suggestions for you. Yeah. And I had to pull back from that and say, you know what? Let's have a conversation that's going to be different. And allow, the folks that I'm working with and serving with to let's come to what your conclusion is. Let's talk about what you think the solution is. So you have to pull back from that and manage different and process different. And then the second thing I think was a learning for me is you have to always, I said this earlier, I'm gonna say it again, focus on the why. Why is it important? People will buy into change more when they understand why you're making the change. If it's not clear to them why this change is important, what's the purpose of this? Most people will struggle with it. Some will do it because they're gonna follow the rules. But if you can get somebody to really understand the why, it's gonna transform your organization. And so the why, keep in mind, for different people is different things. So it means you have to work to get toward that why for different folks. But if you can can find that synergy to focus on the why and get people to understand the benefit, people will buy in. There's an old some, I think it's some research or something I read that talked about you can't make people change their mind. Like I can't make you change your mind. People change their own minds.
That's
and
right.
so part of that why is helping them to see the value in the why of the work.
Wow, that's amazing. We could stay there all day. Like we literally could stay there all day, just talking about the why and helping folks connect their individual personal reason or purpose or drive or passion to what's going on in the organization and making sure that it's some kind of way those two things intersect. But we're not here. We're not here for long. We're not here for a long time. So we're gonna kind of begin to wrap things up. I wanted to ask you if you could, as we're closing things out. A lot of folks watch Coaching Up Close, and some of them have coaching programs in their organization. Some of them don't. Some of them want a coaching program, but they don't know where to get started. Particularly, could you share any words of encouragement, with that coach who's in an organization or someone who loves this idea of a coaching approach, but they're in an organization that hasn't quite made that shift in that direction yet? How can they begin to move differently in that coaching approach to let it change them so that they can change the way that they work, even if they're kind of the what is it called, the lone drummer, drum major for justice out there? Do you have any words for those folks?
Yeah, I would say this, and this was important in our training, in our lead up to the training, to this process. Plan, adjust your plan as necessary. Be real with yourself. You know your organization better than anybody else, right? And so you know what the strengths are going to be, what the weaknesses are going to be, and plan around those things, and don't give up. I had this conversation with my boss, and I said, this thing here, this FCC process, this coaching approach is too important for us to fail. And so it was front and center. It was on my mind, the process of it. We met about it. We talked about it. We set a team up. We were all in on this. And I just saw it as too valuable to our communities for us not to really be invested. So you know how nonprofit works. Every 2 to 3 years, somebody come up with something new, people go do it, and then they do something else. I tell people, for me, this is forever. And as long as I'm at Operation Pathways and NHP Foundation, I'm pushing coaching. We're going to be doing coaching. If I leave here, I'm going to be pushing coaching. It's too valuable for us to just throw it aside. So the biggest thing I can tell somebody is stick to it. It's important. Do it, believe in it. It works. It's effective. It changes people's lives. And we talk about equity. We're in this kind of this age of recognizing historical inequities and those types of things. So I tell people all the time, family-centered coaching is an approach that's all about equity. You're giving people their power back. You're listening to what they want. You're listening to what they desire. That's important, and it's overdue in our industry, in our sector, in my opinion. And we need to move forward in an approach like this. So don't get discouraged. Stay focused. Work hard, and results will come. But there are also challenges coming. It's life, right?
Yeah.
So we got to work around it. The first time there's a challenge, we can't just say, "Well, we done." this didn't work.
Yeah. I think if last year didn't teach us anything, it's a stick to itness, right? Some you have to keep pushing. Well, thank you so much for taking this time to speak with us and talk with us. I'll make sure that if you stick around for the question and answer and you want to get in touch with Kevin to talk with him more, ask him some questions, just kind of pick his brain. He's offered to connect with you all, so I'll make sure I share that contact information later on in our time today. Thanks again, Kevin. We really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you later.
Thank you so much, Fran. Sorry we couldn't be there in person. You guys take care.
All righty. All right. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and a special thanks to our guest, Kevin Lewis. Join us next month for more coaching tips and resources, and be sure to stick around for the question and answer session
session, it'll just be me, but I'm happy to answer those questions and talk with you all as we think through some things. And of course, if you have any questions about our coaching training program, or if you would like to sign up for the next Coaching Up Close mini webinar, visit us at theprosperityagenda.org and check out our LinkedIn page. Until next month, we'll see you then. Bye. Hey, I am going to add Kevin's email address. He was very serious. He wanted to make sure that if anyone had any questions or just kind of wanted to talk through a few things, that's just the kind of person Kevin is. He's always been someone that I could personally rely on as I've been leaning into coaching. Just a little backstory, Kevin at one point was my supervisor before I came to work here at the Prosperity Agenda. And so I consider him to be a mentor. And we actually went through family-centered coaching training together, even though he has years of experience. So anyway, I've shared his contact email in the chat box. If you'd like to reach out to him, he would more than welcome that. The webinar series can be found on our YouTube page. If you search for us on YouTube, The Prosperity Agenda, our page will pop up. And we have a lot of webinars, both Coaching Up Close webinars, as well as other information available over on our YouTube page. I know that we are about 31 minutes after the hour. I would like to hang around for a few more moments to see if there are any questions or comments about any of the information that Kevin and I discussed around gaining staff buy-in into this transformative way of working with families and participants to be more family-led, family-centered, to be strengths-based, goal-driven, anything that puts the participant back in the driver's seat. So again, I'll wait around for a few more minutes. If we don't have any questions, then we will see you all next month. All right, thank you. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you. Absolutely. Transformational versus transactional. Absolutely. There is a big difference. And Kevin talked about that. There's this idea that we can sustain someone, we can keep them where they are, or we can assist them in transforming into the person that they hope that they can be to reach those goals that they have. Absolutely. All righty. Okay, everyone. Well, we'll make sure that we get this posted for you all, and we will see you next month. Next month, we'll also feature a special guest. Oh, we have a question. Next month, we'll also feature a special guest where we'll talk about another one of the case studies that we were able to complete. So please be on the lookout for that email. Any tips when you are pushing coaching as a team member rather than a manager or decision maker, or as someone from an adjacent program? Absolutely. Kevin kind of hinted at this, that we've definitely experienced having staff members get a hold to Coaching Up Close or even other coaching programs and want to bring that information to their leaders. I think one of the best things that has worked for someone in that position is to simply share the thing that sparked interest in them with someone who is a decision maker. And honestly, to make a case on both sides that not only is it a benefit for us, but it would also be a benefit for the family. Oftentimes, just that kind of introduction is enough to spark a conversation. I would also like to point out that if anyone is interested in family-centered coaching, the actual framework is available for free. You don't have to pay for it. It's all on our website, theprosperityagenda.org, or you can also go straight to the online toolkit, familycenteredcoaching.org, and get all of the information and begin to use some of that information in talking about what the difference is between coaching and case management. I do want to be clear that coaching does encompass case management, but as far as our definition, case management does not always equate to coaching. And so simply just sharing the thing that sparked something in you with someone, or maybe even some of your colleagues, to begin to create some buzz and some language around it has been something that has been helpful for those that don't have decision-making power within the organization. Thank you for that question, Ryan. That was a great question. Alrighty. Okay, so we're going to get this posted for you all over on our YouTube, and we will see you next month. Thanks, everyone. Bye.